Yo, 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 what's going on, guys? It's Buns, and welcome back to the Road to Gladiator. Today, I have a short guide that I'm going to show you guys. It's a great overview for anyone that's first stepping into World of Warcraft PvP. We're going to talk about fake casting today. Now, I hope you guys, on a side note, had a great holiday weekend, especially for those of you guys celebrating in the US. It was Thanksgiving. Hope you guys enjoyed your holiday. I took quite a few days off from making videos. I was spending time with family that came in from out of town. Did keep up on the streaming side of things, but today I wanted to come back and get a video, guys, for you. And I think that this one's going to be very helpful for a lot of you guys that are just jumping into PvP. Now, today we're going to talk about fake casting. And now, I guess the first thing we want to talk about is what is fake casting? Fake casting is when a player intentionally casts a spell, like a casted spell, like a heal or a spell like polymorph, something that is casted. A casted spell, and their intention with the spell is to not go all the way through the cast and to stop the cast to bait kicks from the enemy player or the enemy team. So, for example, I'm a Shaman. Right now I can cast my healing surge and then I stop it. You can see that my bar's going and then I stop it. My bar's going and I stop it. This is a concept used, as I just said previously before, to bait enemy kicks out of the enemy team, and while doing so, not getting kicked yourself. Now, this is a concept that works very well for Ellie Shaman, and you're going to be able to pick it up on multiple classes. Now, when I'm playing my Ellie Shaman, why is this important to do? Well, when we're playing in arenas, we're dealing with a lot of different melee DPS and a lot of classes that have interrupt. So, being able to negate the enemy's team's interrupts by trying to guess when they're going to use them is to your advantage. If you get those out of the way and then you can cast your spell, your team doesn't have to worry about those interrupts. And another thing that you can do on some classes as well too, and in the case of Ellie Shaman, another tool that you have available to you is because of the amount of different schools that you can cast in, while having Ice Fury, while having Lightning, while having Lava Burst, we have Fire, Ice, and Nature. So we have a lot of different schools to cast in. You can also tank kicks. Now the first thing that I want to show you guys is, okay, so here's our fake cast, and you guys can see we're going our cast. That's a full cast. Now this next one I'm going to stop by using a fake cast keybind. Now, this is a keybind. You can also use it by like stepping to the side as well too if you don't want to set up a keybind. I think that having a keybind is very efficient, but a lot of the times too, like I'll be in the middle of a game and I'll just step to the side. Either or works. I'm going to show you guys where you can go into your keybinds to set this up. You're going to want to go into keybinds, you're going to want to go into miscellaneous, and it's going to be the top button, stop casting. So what I did is, for me, myself personally, is that I used it as a button on my mouse. So that way it's something that I can easily do with my right hand. It's not something I have to do on my keyboard, not something I have to think about all too much, and I can just fake cast like that. And it gives it a nice edge on my opponent if I feel like they're going to kick. Now, let's think about fake casting from a perspective of what spells are my enemy opponents most likely to kick based on their value. So let's look at it in a few different ways. Let's start looking at it from an Ellie Shaman perspective first. So, for example, Stormkeeper is your biggest damaging spell, and the setup after you get that spell off is a lot of damage, especially against melee teams where are stacked. You're going to get a lot of value from using Chain Lightning into a Lightning Rod and tunnel that damage into one target. The enemy team knows that, right? Stormkeeper is a high value spell for you. Ice Fury is another high value spell in terms of damage output. So, keep this in mind when you're going against enemy melee. If you have two melee on top of you, keep in mind that they are most likely going to kick your Stormkeeper. So, there's a good rule of thumb when you're dealing with fake casting. One is you want to go immediately and kind of cancel it right before the halfway mark because they get that instant reaction where you're going to kick. Or you wait until the very end if they're being stingy about it and then fake cast it at the very end where they're going to try to maximize. They're thinking from their perspective, oh, I'm going to kick them at the very end to maximize my time output, or I'm going to kick them right at the start so that I can get it immediately. So keep that in mind when you are trying to attempt fake casting yourself. You either want to instantly cancel it right at the start or do it right at the end before the cast goes off. Now, on high priority spells like Stormkeeper and Ice Fury, the team is most likely going to kick you. So if you are going to go into it with a mindset like that, keep that in mind that this is a good opportunity for those spells specifically to do that on. In the case of an Elemental Shaman, the other thing you can do as well too is you can also tank kicks. So what that means is, let's say that I have two melee on me and it's most likely that they're going to kick me, and I want to sit there and try to get damage out, and I'll tank their kicks with the enemy team, or my partner, my healer, doesn't have to deal with kicks. So what I can do is I can hard cast Stormkeepers, and if I get kicked, so be it. I'm going to start casting Ice Fury right after that. and then they have to either kick that or they're not going to be able to stop that. So you can get the melee kicks out of the way very quickly, and even though you won't be doing damage, your enemy healer, or excuse me, your healer will not be eating those kicks. Now, in situations where you can give yourself some distance, use Gust of Wind and kind of get away, that's also great too. If you can get your spells off by the means of actually doing them and not feeling like you have to fake cast, then don't. If you can put down a totem, great. Get a little bit of distance, use your Stormkeepers, and then go off and use your spell. But in the case scenario where you can't get the distance, it is important to remember that fake casting is very solid. Now, from a damage perspective, you got to think, okay, the enemy team is going to look at my high value spells. So let's talk about another class that has high value in their spells, like Chaos Bolt. When you guys see Chaos Bolt and you run into a Warlock, you got to kick it. You know, it's going to do huge damage. Same with Glacial Spike. These are high damage value spells. Now, the catch is with Glacial Spike, you almost never want to fake cast that because of how long of a cast time it is in the first case. So taking a kick is okay in that case scenario, but thinking on that mindset from a DPS standpoint, it's important to understand that because you have a better idea for what spells the enemy team is most likely to kick based off of their damage output. Now, two other things to keep in mind too. Let's think about it from a CC perspective too, right? So let's think about it from a Hex perspective. If you're going to go and Hex a target too, that's another high value spell that they're going to want to kick and prevent their teammate or themselves from being put in CC. Polymorph, Fear, Cyclone, same case scenario. Being able to fake cast when you're using those as well too, you're going to bait kicks out from the enemy team because they are going to want to stop you from getting that CC out. So in the case scenario where you feel like, oh my gosh, they have so many kicks on the enemy team, use Stormkeepers, use Ice Fury, use Hex to bait those spells out because you will most likely get the kicks from them. Finally, from a healing perspective as well too, understanding when healers are actually at a disadvantage and you can take advantage of them trying to juke your kicks, and when they actually need to heal versus when they're just trying to bait your kicks is very important. So, for example, let's say that a Resto Shaman throws down a Link and you make a hard swap onto them and he's at 40%. Use and save your kicks until the very end of his cast bar. Like, he's going to try to fake your kicks and get through them so that he can cast quickly. It's most likely that he's going to drop down some of his Earth Totems and some of his mitigation to help himself out, deal through that process, and you may end up getting more cooldowns than you would initially think if you do hold your kicks. So a rule of preference for me when I'm playing as a DPS and I'm trying to kill a healer is most of the time, if I'm going to interrupt a heal, I am going to wait until about 85% of the cast bar, 85, 90%. If I'm looking to kill and take advantage of the fact, because you can think about it from the healer standpoint too, right? They're trying to bait your kicks so that they can freely cast. Now, with that in mind, they're probably going to be fake casting, right? If they get hard swapped onto with no Link, they're probably going to have to fake cast to try to get through your kicks because if they just take a kick, they're not going to be necessarily in a great spot unless they have the cooldowns to deal with it. So, it's a bit of a mind game, and it definitely takes a lot of getting used to and getting into the play style, but this is a very helpful tool for any of you guys that are on the caster side of it, where you actually have to apply fake casting and make it a part of your game. It's something that can very much enhance your overall play style, give you more uptime on your spells, and help irritate the opponents from being able to kick you. And then from the other side of the tree, it's also very important from a DPS standpoint, or for someone that's locking down enemy teams, understanding what spells that the caster is most likely going to fake on is important. Stormkeepers, good spell. Polymorphs, Cyclones, big CC spells. And then understanding when you actually have the foot on the pedal for damage against a healer, and an interrupt would be effective as opposed to, oh, I'm just going to interrupt him for the sake of doing it. Because if you just do it for the sake of using the spell and they juke you, that's not good. You could have held your kick to keep more pressure on top of them where they still are sitting there trying to juke it, right? So that's how the whole process goes. I wanted to make a short video about this because I know for a lot of players jumping into PvP, this is a concept that's not overly talked about, and I felt like I could do a good job explaining it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed doing this one. I'm glad to be back, guys. As always, appreciate the support on the channel. I will catch you guys on the live stream during the afternoon or on the next video. Peace. Later, guys. Yo, 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 what's going on, guys? It's Buns, and welcome back to the Road to Gladiator. Tonight, let's talk WoW PvP. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Artifact Knowledge Catch-Up System coming with the next patch, 7.1.5.